Welcome to another of my occasional series of videos based on my book Macros for Editors. This video is called Advanced Automatic Spell Correction, and it's aimed at editors, and ideally editors who have used my Fredit macro to do a series of global find and replaces. So the scenario I've in mind is that you're editing a book that is made up of individual chapter files, but that you've created one big file of all the text of all the chapters so that you can analyze it and check consistency. So that's what this file I've got here is meant to represent. The macros I'm going to use are down here, and the first one is spelling suggest, and that can be used both locally and globally, so I just want to show it you locally. If you're reading through the text and you want to check a word for if the spelling is correct, then you can run the macro, and I run it from a keystroke. So that bong noise tells me that the word continuing is spelt correctly. Misusing, yep, that's okay. And here's one that looks like a spelling error. So it does a double bong to tell me that it was incorrect, and it has corrected it for me. Might as well undo that one. Now, what we want to do now is to look at it globally. So the first thing we need is a list of all the words that are spelling errors, or at least that Word thinks are spelling errors, and for that I use spelling error lister. So let's run that from our keystroke. So it's checking first of all that I really do want UK spelling, which is what the file is set to, and I say yes I do. So it goes through and creates a list of all the different words that it reckons are spelling errors. So there's implemented, it's picked up. So now we're going to use this list as the basis for our Fredit list. Aliotopsis is a perfectly good technical term. ArchivePub is part of my web address, so those don't want changing. ASLO looks a bit odd, doesn't it? So that's also difficult. So I'm using the spelling suggest macro, which in this case, rather than just changing the spelling, it actually puts it as an alternative ready for Fredit. So that's expression, implemented, minuses, opportunities. Fredit proofreaders is not an error, so we'll leave that one alone. Strengths, subtle, there. And then these are the words that have got mixed capitalization. Computer, that's an error. Now the rest are all not spelling errors. Now what about these last two? So what I can do with those is, if I highlight them in a color using my highlighting macro, I can then use those to highlight them in the text. So what I now want to do is to use the third macro, Fredit list process, which tidies up this list. You can see that ASLO and difficult and so on are all ready to be used, but we don't want these other words that don't have alternatives. So we I'll run it from the menu, FR, so that's Fredit list process, there it is. So if I run that, so what that's done now, it's gone down and it's left these main ones alone, and it has changed the ASLO. Now the reason for that is, if ASLO is a single word, in other words use a wildcard find and replace with the angle brackets around it, then we definitely want to change that to also, but it's possible that ASLO might occur as part of another word, so that first line will colour any occurrence of ASLO in the text, and similarly with subtle and there. They will be highlighted if they are then part of another word, but they'll be corrected if they are just a single word. And the Sirioshis and Siroishis are highlighted. So there you are. Those are all the items ready for your Fredit list, and as you go through chapter by chapter you can run the Fredit list and those words will be changed. Just as an aside, these ones have a line through them, which means don't track change those. All these others will be track changed, but the highlighting of subtle and there will not be track changed. Well, that's it. I hope you find that useful, and I'll try and go off now and do another macro. Demonstration. Bother.